Hello everybody, my name's Kit and my pronouns are they, them, and welcome to this panel discussion for the Pride in Higher Aspirations project for Pride Month 2021. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by two students from the University of East Anglia, Charlotte and Chloe. Welcome you two, it's absolutely wonderful to see you.
Hi, great to see you too.
So I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourselves. So Charlotte, if you'd like to start.
Sure. So I'm Charlotte. I'm a philosophy master's student, and I just finished my undergrad in the same at University of East Anglia. I'm 22. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm bisexual and gender fluid.
Chloe.
Hiya, I'm Chloe. I'm a student at UEA studying culture, literature and politics, about to finish my second year. I'm a mature student, I'm 33, and I'm bisexual, and my pronouns are she, her.
That's wonderful, thank you. And already just for our introductions, we just got the sense of kind of like the diversity that we can find at universities. So the first thing I suppose we can talk about is, how do you find the difference between kind of growing up high school, the kind of town you were living in, or what, you know, the situation that you were in, to where you are now? I mean, was it like a whoa, shock, surprise kind of effect, or was it more of a kind of, no, these are more of my people? Or how did that feel to you? Chloe, let's start with you. How did going university feel to you when you suddenly came across this diverse range of people? How'd that make you feel?
Well, I've obviously gone the sort of long route around. I had a career as a chef for 15 years, and I grew up in a sort of fairly conservative commuter town in Essex, then lived in London for a long time, and then moved to Norwich and started at UEA. So I've kind of been around the block a bit and seen various different kind of sides to the coin. And when I started at UEA, although obviously I'm a fair bit older than a lot of my sort of fellow students, I was amazed at how sort of welcoming and inclusive the environment is. And it's a real far cry from my experience of being at school, where, you know, to cut a long story short, I had a bad time as a teenager, and that's how I ended up not going down the university and college route then. And it was surprising, really surprising in a good way.
I'm not going to portray the fact that schools in Essex, because I'm in the same situation. I'm a little bit older than you. We're roughly the same age. I'm also from a school in Essex, and and I had exactly the same experience as you, where my high school experience. Well, there was no even any kind of indication or anything to do with sexuality or gender was used as a bully tactic, rather than and there was nothing else apart from that. So yeah, we've got very, very similar experiences there, I guess.
I mean, at the time, it was actually it was illegal, wasn't it, to
Section 28
stuff in school. So I was very pleased to find that sort of things seem to have moved on quite a bit.
I think we were both Thatcher babies, I think. Yeah. So we were enough. We're not going to say any more than that. Charlotte, you're quite a bit younger than both of us. What about for yourself? Was it any different for you, or was it kind of similar?
So I came through straight to uni. I didn't have a gap year or anything, so I'm straight from school to sixth form to uni. I found that the biggest difference is the anonymity. So at school, because I was so openly LGBT, for example, I actually lived as a trans man for 5 years, and I was on testosterone for 2 years. So that's hormone replacement therapy and hormone blockers. Everybody knew me, right? I wasn't exactly popular, but everybody knew me. All the teachers, basically all the students, the year 7s to the year 12s, everyone. You come to uni and it's like, oh, I don't know who any of these people are, and they don't know who I am whatsoever, right? I picked a university further away from where I grew up so that I would have that experience of coming in and nobody knowing me, because I was still living as a trans man at that time. So it was like, well, maybe I'll pass, right? So that's a term, which means people assume from looking at you and speaking to you that you are that your gender aligns with the gender you were assigned at birth. So I came into university hoping for this anonymity, and I really got it, right? When I told people about my identity, like they kind of didn't believe me, like because I did pass. So it was super anonymous and just kind of nobody could tell, I guess. Which in a lot of ways was refreshing because at school, I mean, even now, there's still like quite a lot of bullying. I think less for sort of around the sexualities and a bit more around the gender stuff at this point. Although I feel like even in the last few years, that's changed. I feel like that's really changed in the last few years. But yeah, I think really for me, it was the anonymity, which was kind of the big shock, the big difference. Yeah.
I'm just going to give a shout out to the Norfolk and Suffolk diversity networks, because there's Norfolk are just setting up today. Actually, they got their launch meeting today, where all the high schools LGBT groups are getting together to form a network, which is absolutely amazing. And Suffolk already have one. And I actually said in a tweet, like, this is a sign of the times that things are changing. And I feel like I'm almost missed out by, I don't know how you feel, Chloe, but I feel like I've missed out a little bit by going through school 15, 20 years ago than I have. Then maybe some people say, but we know that people watching, you know, that the experiences of everyone's different. Some of us are more privileged to be in schools which are very affirming, and some of us aren't as privileged to be in schools which understand things are going on. Charlotte, I just want to pick up something, and Chloe, you can come in as well. You had mentioned about the anonymity, but you also mentioned about how people didn't believe you or understand. Because we don't want to paint this picture that going to university all of a sudden everyone's like, yeah, I'm like pro LGBTQ, I'm an ally, and like everyone's just getting along harmoniously, because everybody's coming from the almost similar bases, aren't they, where there is very little exposure of LGBTQ, a little experience of those kind of things. You know, for the vast majority of people, maybe they're in the closet or don't even know their identity. So yeah, we're all coming together from an almost a lack of experience, unknown base. But
yeah,
would you say though that you met enough people who were like, yeah, I know this is a thing? Or more so than, it's a difficult question. I'm not phrasing it very well, probably, but
I feel like it was less that people didn't know what it was and more that they just didn't believe me.
Right.
They thought I was joking. Like the day I moved into my flat, I kind of felt like I should probably tell them I'm going to be walking around in my pajamas, right? So normally I would be wearing a binder, which kind of compresses the chest area so that you look like you have a flat chest, basically, for those who don't know. And I thought, well, when I take that off, they're going to notice. Right. So I thought I better disclose this. Otherwise, you know, they're going to be a bit confused. Not because like you have to disclose, but I thought, you know, I might as well. I don't mind. But they, when I said it, they started laughing, and not in a mean way. They just literally just thought I was joking. I guess because it's so uncommon, and most people, or at least it seems very uncommon, right? Like just because like a lot of people might say, "Oh, I've never met a trans person," but actually they have. They just didn't know. I feel like that's kind of common, but yeah. So I think maybe it was just because it was very unfamiliar to them, but they didn't kind of. They just thought I was joking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very different from school because everybody saw it happen, I guess, right? Like they saw my transition. So everybody had to believe me because they'd seen it.
Yeah. What about yourself, Chloe? Were you already out before you came to university? I mean, what was it like for you, that experience?
I have been sort of comfortable with my sexuality since really before I knew what being queer was. I knew I was queer. But then once I sort of was bullied at school and got past all that stuff, it stopped being part of my everyday discourse, really. In my 20s, I mostly had relationships with men, which meant that it sort of wasn't immediately obvious to people I met that I was queer, and it kind of just took a back seat a little bit. You know, it was always there and it's always been part of my identity, but it felt like it wasn't having as much of an impact on my life as when I was at school, and really it was a negative thing or perceived as a negative thing. And one nice thing about coming to university has been how sort of in everyday discourse LGBT issues are. both in kind of general conversation, it seems to come up quite a lot. There are a lot of sort of very openly queer students, and also in the kind of academic stuff. Obviously it depends on your course, but in humanities, in sort of literature and cultural studies, there is a lot of queer theory as part of the curriculum, which I've found incredibly positive, because I've had this kind of aspect to my identity for 25 years or so, and haven't really had much opportunity to explore it. And now I'm finding new ways to sort of think about my queerness through my course.
Yeah, that's something that's of the project that we're doing at the moment. So this Pride and High Aspirations, people bringing that actually into their academia as well, or getting it out from academia. And the reason why we're doing this, of course, is to show that actually us as a community, and how we connect into, I mean, I'm an ex-geography teacher, so I would make these kind of connections, but how we kind of like make the connections with how the world works, not just societally and like the human geography classic, but also the physical landscapes and stuff like that, how LGBTQ kind of fits into that. And it's been an eye-opener for me, actually, about how many people have said, and please do watch all the other videos and stuff, everybody, they're actually amazing to listen to. On when you mentioned about the discourse, so I noticed that you didn't say like it was like totally 100% like fantastic experience all the time. You said the discourse around certain things, dropped off. You weren't, you weren't being at those kind of like almost daily struggles of being bullied at high school, was something that I certainly experienced as well. But we don't want to paint a rosy picture of universities, because it's another chapter of life and there are other challenges involved as well. So is there anything you would say, Chloe, that you still found challenging, even though, coming to university? I mean, it doesn't have to be LGBTQ related, but, because this is an information video for people who just want to go to university. But of course, if there is LGBTQ related stuff, you can let us know if you like too. So challenges?
I mean, it's obviously a huge adjustment. Coming from a career in something completely different has obviously been a huge jump, but also I did an access course before my degree, and the jump of doing something that is sort of the equivalent of A levels into sort of degree level was quite an eye-opener, just in terms of the workload. And in terms of more sort of general day-to-day non-academic stuff, I have found it quite hard to integrate, and I think that is for several reasons. A little bit to do with just being older than, not all, but a lot of students, partly because I still sort of have I guess a bit of underlying trauma from my experience at school, which I haven't completely moved past, which can make it feel quite difficult to integrate socially. And obviously COVID has had a huge kind of impact on how things have been run, and I think I would have participated in a lot more kind of extracurricular uni stuff if it wasn't the case. But hopefully I've still got another year of my degree left, and it's been a learning curve all the way through, and it's amazing how quickly it's gone. I can't believe I'm 2 years done already. If I could go back, like, I would do some things differently. I would be more involved. I would try and get stuck in a bit more, because it is, it's such an amazing experience, and it's probably only going to be a one-off. So I wish that I could have maybe got stuck in a little bit more in my first couple of years, but hopefully I've got a bit of time to rectify that now.
Yeah. And definitely, Charlotte, I know, is going to come off of that, because I see Charlotte's like, oh, yeah. But yeah, we'd say that is a very common piece of advice that actually a lot of people are giving, is saying, like, do see if you can push outside your comfort zone and like go to these sites. But we've also got someone who they did a written piece for this project, and I thought it was a very necessary thing to say, and that was, you don't also need to rush into too much either. You know, do take the time to kind of find yourself, build your own network groups and stuff like that. You don't have to go to absolutely everything. So finding that balance is tricky, like really getting yourself outside your comfort zone, but also staying enough in it where you can develop your sense of self as well. So I think that's absolutely fantastic, Chloe. So Charlotte, going off on that then, obviously you can overlap, you can stem off what Chloe's just said there, but also you can talk about maybe the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, so I mean, I really agree with the whole getting involved thing, because I'll be honest, in my first and second year, I had a lot of, I mean, particularly then, but still ongoing, I had a lot of mental health issues, especially social anxiety. And a lot of that kind of integrated with the trans and the like bullying stuff, right? Even though like I wasn't being bullied at university, I'd been bullied at school, but because of the anonymity, like, I mean, I'd had transphobic things said in front of me, but because people didn't know that I was trans, I never felt like threatened. Like I'd been kind of physically threatened a few times at school, but I never felt unsafe at university. It was more just like, you've just said something really dodgy and I definitely don't agree with it, but you don't know that I'm trans. But yeah, like I found that because of this anxiety that I had, I really didn't get involved in societies at all. For example, the only society I'm in is the Philosophy Society. And I went to a couple of the LGBT events, but I just kind of felt too anxious and a bit too much of an outsider, because I didn't really openly seem queer at the time. I mean, it's quite easy to tell now. But you know, I used to just kind of pass as generally a straight guy. I mean, so it just kind of I felt kind of like an outsider there, when it was like kind of mostly like gay men and bisexual girls and lesbians, because my issues of, I mean, I came out as bisexual at 12, but my issues have kind of always been more around the gender thing than the sexuality thing, because I'm fine with it. And I was never really bullied for the sexuality thing, right? My parents accepted it. I mean, I literally told my dad at 12 at a concert, it's like, Dad, I like girls. It's like, okay, I think I could have already told you that. So it was more the gender stuff. And yeah, so I had a lot of anxiety around that, and I never really got involved in anything. I found my own friends on my course, and actually most of my friends are mature students, to be honest. But I never really participated in societies and stuff. And now it's kind of too late, because I'm in my 4th year. I mean, I do want to do a PhD eventually, but not yet. At least then I'll be doctor and nobody can ask me, is it Miss or Mr? Because I don't know what to tell you, pal. I don't know. You pick. But yeah, so it's kind of, I wish I had gotten more involved, because I saw a lot of events and a lot of people being involved, and it seemed like a great time. And it seemed like a lot of people made really good friends for it. And I was just always kind of too scared to do it. So that's kind of a piece of advice. Please get involved.
Yeah. And I'm just going to make sure everybody is aware that, Charlotte, you're also kindly going to be making an audio recording for us, which is amazing. So I think that it's, if Charlotte's experience and stories is resonate with you very, very strongly, or you want that insight, I strongly recommend that you give that a listen. And you can also go to the Pride and Higher Aspirations webpage to access that. So it's been absolute delight talking to you both. You know, just knowing people like yourself and other people in the LGBT community makes me it makes me feel pride in being myself as well, which is the reason why we're doing this, isn't it? We're making ourselves vulnerable, we're making ourselves visible, because we are out there, we are real, and we want to make sure that the youngsters watching this know that you do have a place in this world, and you can, whatever route you decide to take, you know, you can thrive in it. So do try and take the time to watch the other videos, read the other stories list, because everybody's experience is different. Some people do have an amazing university experience. Some people have a challenging university experience, but there's lots of advice and stuff like that given out. So any final words I'll ask. So Charlotte and Chloe, you've already given some really good advice or anything like that. But okay, let's rephrase this. Instead of just like, do you have a top tip kind of thing? Because this answer might be slightly different to both of you, I don't know. So we've got 13 to 19-year-olds that this is targeted towards. So if you were to go back to your 13, 19-year-old self and do that whole classic thing, if you could talk to your younger self, what would you say, kind of thing? What would you say? So Charlotte, you first, and then we'll finish with Chloe.
Stop panicking. Everything's going to be fine. You've got loads of time. Literally so much time. It's going to be fine.
I like that.
Stop panicking.
And Chloe, what would you say to young Chloe?
Oh, similar, really. Yeah, I mean, don't let what other people say impact on your decisions so much. Take a bit of time to process the things you've been through and move forward in a positive way, rather than panicking and making snap decisions. And be confident in your own path.
Oh, that's a lovely finish. And you're a prime example of how, if university feels not right for you at the moment, it's not closed the door for you forever. Chloe is proof of that. Yeah, Chloe's gone and done something else and come back and thought, no, I would like to go to university. So if you're watching this thing and not interested in university, perfect, fine. You can always come back to it if it becomes your thing. Chloe's proof of that. Chloe and Charlotte, I could talk to you all day, really could. Thank you so much. I hope we keep in contact because you're two wonderful people. And thank you everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Pride Month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.